Here I am, writing this long tale in my honeymoon, but it does feel cathartic to finally type it out, and my husband is more excited about this than the resort drinks. Anyway, this is a throwaway because I don't have a Reddit account and my husband, the Reddit fanatic, said he doesn't want this associated with his main. As to why the Reddit guy isn't the one writing this, it's because he said, since it's my family, I should be the one with the honor of posting the story, but he is looking over my shoulder to help out. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if this works, but I do not give permission for this to be reposted anywhere else. So, I think first it's necessary to give some background, to explain how this behavior reached this level, and why our responses were as they were. It's a long read, I apologize. So, ever since I could remember, my parents loved my sister more. I don't mean in subtle ways either. If my sister accused me of something, they'd believe it and punish me. If I accused her, they wouldn't believe. Even if there was undeniable proof, they'd still give her a lesser punishment and try to find a way to scold me in tandem. My birthday cake had to be a flavor she wanted. Hers did not, and my parents always denied knowing I didn't like that type of cake. They always bought her a bit more than for me. We went to where she wanted, even if it was an event that should be about me. My sister grew up spoiled and didn't like me, just used me as a punching bag. But at first she mostly ignored me. But then it got really bad when we were young teens. I'm not sure what the cause and effect are, but she found herself with no friends and her behavior got worse. Did her friends move? Did they ditch her because she was mean? I don't know. Because we were never close and my parents loved to boast about her achievements but never ever mentioned any issues, whereas with me, they loved to bring out any flaws of mine constantly as teasing immaterial. I only knew she had none because we went to the same school and I noticed her no longer walking around with people. Anyway, she had no friends. I did. I used to be decently popular. My sister realized that and suddenly I stopped being the occasional punching bag to a hated person she needed to take down at all times. She started accusing me of more stuff. She accused my friends of more stuff. My parents stopped allowing me to hang out with anyone, the excuses ranging from, they're not good people according to your sister, to, why are you trying to leave us, why can't you be like your sister and enjoy family time? What saved me from complete isolation was extended family. Most of my family lived in the same hometown, and I got along with my cousins despite some age difference. At one gathering, they invited me over to something, I don't remember what, and I sadly replied I'm not allowed to go anywhere. When asked why, my kid self with no filter replied that it was because I wasn't allowed to have friends since my sister didn't have any. Well, that reached the adults, who apparently tore my parents apart. Later I was scolded for lying and grounded, as if I had anywhere to go, for a month. But after that they allowed me some leeway, so it was worth it. And my sister changed schools. I guess the humiliation of extended family knowing her social status was bad and she demanded to be changed. My life was still bad. Her friends would come over and bully me and my parents called it light teasing. I never called friends over because my parents were awful hosts to them, or my sister would accuse them of taking stuff and they'd believe it. I did become close to my cousins though, since my parents never dared do any of that to family. And then I got my first boyfriend. I didn't want to bring him home at all, but my parents insisted. Well, at one point we were separated and he came to find me to tell me my sister was flirting with him. By which he meant, she came over with skimpy clothing, batting her eyelashes really badly and started telling him how bad I was and how good she was. He was irked and ran off to find me. Of course, my sister told my parents a different tale, that my BF had instead tried to flirt with her, but she naturally refused since how could she do that to me? Guess who my parents believed? Now, my BF wasn't perfect but I immediately believed him. For a mean reason. But remember that back then I was a teen and suffering from the unfair bad treatment. I was very resentful and moody and now hated my sister as much as she hated me. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about looks. I hadn't mentioned them yet because they weren't relevant. My parents were / are overweight. And since they liked showing love via food, giving you more food, buying treats etc., my sister was / is also overweight, whereas I was / am not, In fact, I've always been kind of skinny because punishment often included no treats or snacks. Obviously, weight isn't what matters, personality is. But my sister even then was already rude and spoiled, even her flirting attempts were bad because she never learned to work for anything since she could demand and my parents would deliver. Added to that the fact that she didn't look like some sexy model, even my self-conscious teen self didn't believe my BF would try and cheat on me with her. Anyway, my parents prohibited me from dating such a horrible boy. I did try to keep going in secret, but it was hard and the relationship ended. I did get another, but again my sister accused him of flirting with her when he refused her advances. Again my parents believed her. I tried pointing out how this happened again, but they decided that meant I was incapable of making good choices. And kept picking bad boyfriends. The relationship couldn't handle the Romeo-Juliet situation, and fizzled out again. I would eventually get called a slut in high school, as I was fine with making out with boys and such but refused to have relationships. Thankfully it never got back to my sister or parents. My sister did bring one boyfriend home during all this time. He was paraded with pride, and my parents spent every second telling me how good he was, and why couldn't I be like my sister and find myself someone like that? Until he stopped showing up, and suddenly he was conniving bastard that tricked my sister. Oh well. And the unequal treatment continued at this time. She had more spending money, her curfews were much better than mine, she was free to go anywhere at any time while I couldn't. If I pointed it out, my parents would say it's because she's older. But when I reached that age, I still didn't have the same treatment she had. And when pointed out, they'd deny they ever said that or claim it was because I couldn't be trusted like she was, using my sister's accusations against my BF and friends as proof of my bad judgment. Time goes by, and it's time for my sister to graduate. She was accepted into a college. Not a very well-regarded one, and she had no scholarship or anything. Again, because only her achievements were told to me, I don't know which colleges she even tried for, so I can't say how badly she was rejected. I do know her grades were bad in school though, because whenever she got a B we would celebrate, I would usually get good grades, but my parents refused to celebrate. Claiming since I always got those, what was there to celebrate? My parents, naturally, made a lot of fanfare and told her they'd pay for everything. I was relieved she'd be going away. Not that it made my life any easier. She'd always come home every other weekend and somehow stuff kept missing from her room or some other issue she'd think of to make my life miserable. My curfews were still strict, etc. Eventually, my mom came to talk to me about my impending graduation. I'm only a year younger than my sister. She told me since they were paying for my sister's college, they had no money to pay for mine. So it would be better for me to start working immediately after graduation and waiting until my sister finished uni to see if they could afford something for me. Oh, and if I decided to stay at home, I'd have to pay for all my stuff, part of the bills, and rent. I pointed out I could get student loans. Mom said yes, except no. That is, because they were so caring towards me, and I had such bad judgment, they would decide if a college was worth my getting in debt or not. I'm not sure how they'd stop me from getting loans, but I didn't ask. Scholarships weren't mentioned. They had no idea what my grades were anymore, and never believed in my capabilities. Anyway, I didn't bat an eyelid. I simply said okay. My mom clearly didn't expect that and kept pushing. Maybe she hoped I'd throw a tantrum so they'd have an excuse to not ever pay for my college. I did not. I was mature and distant during the entire conversation. You see, I had a secret plan. One of my cousins had already moved to another city, big city, about 2 hours drive from our hometown, to study, and had room to spare. They had invited me to go live with them whenever. And so I did. Right after graduation, I moved out without saying anything. Once there I worked and applied for scholarships, got a partial one. I could go to college if I kept working. To be honest, my life turned out pretty good after that. But I was resentful and estranged from my parents. They only called when they wanted to complain about my sister. She never finished college and kept wasting money. My dad passed away when I was 23. I only knew because one of my aunts told me. My mom never called me. When I called her, she said I didn't have to worry about it, but I had to worry about helping her out now that she had no husband. My sister was living with her BF and couldn't spare money. I ended the call. I kept limited contact with them. Mom would only call to demand money or rant about my sister. After 2 years, she passed away. Again, I wasn't told. Again, one of my aunts told me. Again, my sister was not helping and they demanded I did. I was hesitant, but my cousin who I lived with pointed out I could check on my dad's inheritance. And so I did. Surprise, surprise, he had left some things for me. Nothing big, but enough to pay for the rest of my tuition. My sister was furious. It turns out my dad knew my sister very well. She had always been in debt despite my parents paying for everything. It was just some bank accounts and some bonds, which she couldn't touch. She tried to tell me those were meant for her, but my dad didn't have time to do it. But I never believed her. I used the money for me. This caused another estrangement, but to be honest, we were never that close, so it wasn't much of a difference. So we stayed friends. The time I got my job coincided with him getting a job at a town about 30 minutes away from mine. So we started hanging out more often, just as friends. Eventually we decided to try dating again. It worked out pretty well this time. It was a great match and within a year we moved in together. Then he proposed a year later. This is the happiest time of my life. And one of the reasons is I decided to invite my sister and her then boyfriend to our engagement party. I hadn't seen her in years, but Mom had begged me to have a heart, and that family is family, and she'd always be my sister. So I invited her. To my surprise, she RSVP'd yes. She even told me how happy she was for me and how we'd finally be true sisters. My husband was suspicious, but I thought maybe she changed. Well, she attended. The party was at the house of one of my cousins, the one I had lived with for so long. Everyone was congratulating me and my husband. Except my sister and her BF. They were hanging out around the buffet and ignoring everyone. Whatever, let them do their thing. At some point, my sister made a speech. It was the usual of congratulations, with a side of, I hope you two stay happy and can forgive your family. Well, my husband has a lot of relatives who were present, who had no idea of my relationship with my sister. So they tried to talk to her after that. She was mean. My sister's BF had disappeared too. I was a bit angry, but she never escalated things, so I let it go. It was a busy party, I didn't have time to deal with her nonsense. But my husband kept a wary eye on her. That night, my cousin who hosted told me something strange had happened. Her cash savings had been stolen from her room. But she never accused my sister directly, just asked me to help look for it. I never found it. I never talked to my sister either. I just decided to ignore her again. Wedding came around. My husband and I didn't want to invite my sister. We didn't trust her, and suspected her of the theft. But my mom went berserk when we mentioned it. Screamed about how ungrateful we were to family, and again to have a heart, to let sister have a chance. That weddings were different, that my sister really wanted to be close now. We relented, but we had a plan this time. We warned the venue about her. We told the staff who she was, and what she had done. They said they would keep an eye on her. And so the wedding happened. She did the usual speech, but never seemed to make amends. She also kept away from everyone. Her BF never came to the wedding. It was weird, but I just assumed they broke up. Anyway, the wedding went smoothly, even if some guests tried to talk to my sister and gave up because of her attitude. Then, the day after the wedding, a staff member contacted me. My sister had tried to go into the staff quarters. She had some convoluted tale of losing something in there. They kicked her out. I was furious. I sent her a message calling her out and told her I never wanted to see her again. She exploded, claimed she was so nice to me and this is how I repaid her. She then blocked me. I thought, great, that was easy. Mom then said she refused to talk to me for a few months because I was being mean to my sister. Oh well. But after that I thought I'd never see her again. I was wrong. We saw her by chance once. She was at some store. We ignored her. Well, that brings us to the present. Honeymoon time. Husband and I decided to go to a nice resort. We didn't tell anyone where we were going, because, well, I don't trust my sister. So imagine my surprise when my sister and her new BF show up there. I don't know how they knew where we were. I think my mom might have known, and she might have told her. I was fuming. But my husband, ever cool and composed, said, let's not let her ruin our time here. So we tried to enjoy ourselves. But they kept showing up wherever we went. It was really suspicious. They'd always appear just as we were settling down somewhere. One day, my husband had enough. He confronted her. Asked her what she was doing here. She played innocent, said it was a coincidence, that they had also planned a trip here ages ago. He called the resort manager. Told them the whole story, and requested a room change. The manager was understanding, and moved us to a more private suite. We also got a warning that if my sister caused any more trouble, she'd be asked to leave. The rest of our honeymoon was peaceful. We never saw my sister again. So here I am, typing this out. It feels good to get it off my chest. My husband suggested we go no contact with my sister and anyone who enables her. I agree. We've had enough of her drama. We're starting a new chapter in our lives, and we wanted to be free of her negativity. Thanks for reading this long story. It feels good to finally share it.